Great. Thank you so much, Nick. So since it's our last panel of the day, and we're going to talk about digital creativity, we're talking about entertainment and technology, whether it's blockchain or artificial intelligence. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, especially during the very interesting period of time where entertainment and technology meet. So to start off, why don't we, since we have an amazing line of panelists, why don't we do a little bit of introduction about who you are and the projects that you're working on. So why don't we start with, let's do Felix.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Felix Meng. I'm the CEO and founder of Xtrace. I'm currently working with the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator, and originally I was from the Master of Computation and Mathematical Engineering from Stanford. And then Xtrace is a secure knowledge sharing and memory sharing network for all the AI agents. So what we do is that we create personalized memory for all the AI agents so they can keep on learning based on the past interactions with other users. And then the personalized memory is encrypted, so only the user will have access to it. So we essentially allowed semantic search over ciphertext, and then in like millisecond level in comparison to like a fully homomorphic encryption that can take 30 seconds. And then in addition, what we allow is that we can create this universal knowledge sharing network. So a lot of questions and queries are redundant around the world when you're asking GPT. Essentially, there are 100 million of queries per month or per day. And then a lot of them are repeated. So why don't we just allow like you to have access to all the previous memory of all the AI agents, and then without spending like the compute to redo all the inference again, you can basically just grab like the relevant information and then use it for your own inference. And then this also works well for like multi-agent collaboration because essentially you can have access to 1 million like agents' knowledge and past experience, and allow you to scale and then use all the past knowledge as reference. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, so later we're going to dive into a little more about security and privacy through agents. But Butian, why don't you also introduce yourself and your project?
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. I'm Butian, CEO of Blockless. We actually just rebranded to be called Bless. So we are building the world's first shared computer, allowing everyday devices to automatically contribute their CPU, GPU, RAM, just simply by being online. So this means, the kind of people like my mom, without knowing what crypto does, they're also part of this internet, not only as a user, but also as a provider, a supplier, and part of this infrastructure. And we then use those compute power to run, say, AI is actually one of the vertical of some of our clients use those compute for. And gaming, social, any kind of workload that traditionally that cannot run on blockchain, or it's some sort of internet scale of use cases. So that way we really enable users of the Web2 to be also part of this shared economy and really kind of shift the power from big players to the hands of everyday users. Yeah, very happy to be here today and can't wait to share and have an interesting conversation with you all.
Great, thank you, Butian. And Michael, it's your turn.
Hey, what's up? Michael, I'm the co-founder CEO of Abstract, which is a founders fund-backed consumer focused blockchain. And again, I would never recommend creating a blockchain nowadays, but I think the unique reason that we're doing it is we're kind of taking like Sony PlayStation Wallet meets Apple App Store meets Twitch and kind of combining all of them and having it run on a dedicated consumer-focused chain. And then before that, it kind of started out of the Ethereum seed round, worked on ETH 2.0 when that was, for crypto geezers out there like myself, a way to make Ethereum go fast. Also worked on ZK Sync recently as a way to kind of bring, ZK technology into both Ethereum and crypto. And then, speaking of entertainment, I was at Activision Blizzard for a couple of years, launching 5 games, as well as showrunner at ABC Television.
Great, thank you, Michael. And I'm Ivan. I'm with Wave, which is a generative AI in music. And a lot of you might have actually experienced our product before, back in April when solar eclipse happened, that was April 8th, NASA used our AI to provide the music and audio experience along with the eclipse. And at the time, I believe around 20 million people witnessed this experience. And it was very interesting because originally NASA didn't want to implement any audio or music experience into it, but in terms of enhancing the experience with audio and to get that entire viewing more emotional, we decided to add in music. But because the delivery day was within 2 weeks, so we took this chance to leverage generative AI to create music that's under 48 hours and delivered to NASA. But before AI, we tried quite a several technology. I used to write music for video games. A lot of you probably heard of the games that we produce in the soundtrack, including Final Fantasy, including Kingdom Hearts from Disney, Legend of Zelda, and I was the music director of Assassin's Creed, which won a Grammy last year. For the very first time, the Recording Academy created the new category where video game soundtracks are being considered as mainstream music genre as part of the Academy. So having said that, we talked about how entertainment, art, or creativity can actually be a part of the game, leveraging technology. And Michael, I know that you were also in gaming, and I was also in gaming for 15 years. One thing that's really interesting is that this word community has been pretty much overused throughout the years, right, in a blockchain. But as a matter of fact, the gaming community is incredibly unique, and it's not the same way when you wanted to promote or do a marketing campaign. You cannot just post several videos or post onto social media. And Michael, what do you see from your experience in gaming and now creating abstract? Those are some of the nutritions and experiences coming together, and how does it help you to leverage in your project?
Yeah, I think whenever, it's much broader than just community. The way that I think about anytime you want something to go from, a great idea and kind of distributed, mass market is you generally have to do 3 things really well. It's culture, are you and your team and what you're building, kind of culturally influential in that space that you're operating in? Like, are you shaping and moving culture? So like in streetwear, think, Virgil and Off-White, within crypto, at least for us, between myself, co-founders, that founded and run Pudgy Penguins, as well as Saigar and that whole crew, like very influential folks kind of continuing to shape crypto culture as well as contribute to it. The second part is community. It's like, a movement without followers is not a movement. So, and there's something very unique to just, community building, not just for crypto, but you see this just in gaming, kind of K-pop, probably like within like, it goes far back as like, the military or organized religion. There's like these like common thread lines of shared activity, common purpose, finding other like-minded people. And all of us, human beings want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And then the last part, nobody ever gets well, is distribution, right? When you have, these culturally influential folks, like look at, again, like I came up through hip hop and streetwear. You look at Virgil, like, kind of bringing streetwear, with like a different twist with Off-White. You eventually got, into LVMH as the creative director and really brought streetwear hypebeast culture into the mainstream through that distribution mechanism. So I think it's those 3 things, culture, community, distribution, that you have to get right.
And now it's getting really interesting because we talked about agents in artificial intelligence, which I wanted to ask Felix, because going forward, apparently security and privacy, these are the topics that we care a lot. And in terms of building communities and also going forward, seeing how artificial intelligence will be able to leverage in terms of community or organizations or in enterprises. And what you do at AIxTrace is focused on this. What do you see some of the opportunities where agents or organizations where they could actually communicate on behalf of human beings, and what are some of the opportunities and your concerns?
Yes, I think that like AI agent actually have 4 components, right? Like the large language model, the knowledge base is connected to, the ability to code tools, and the ability to do the self-learning process. I think for a large language model, for AI agent to perform well, it has to actually connect to critical context data in the company. So it's kind of like, even if you're like the brightest mind from school, and then the company hire you, and then they don't give you any context data, you can't really function and work in the company. So right now, you're trying to make sure that even though AI agent has access to all your critical data, they somehow have like a guardrail that won't just let them just share all your data out. So I think during like the cross-company collaboration part, when you can actually send an AI agent to another company, the AI agent has to know what to say and what not to say. Kind of like analogous to how like human employees work. Then you can sign NDAs. AI agent cannot sign NDAs right now. So in AIxTrace, we're really focusing on allowing access control for AI agent to know like what data to check and what data to like use and what data to share with other people. So essentially, we're working with some like NASDAQ company who are like working with a lot of different partners around the world. And then now, instead of sharing like 5,000 pages of PDF that might be confidential, they share an AI agent who has knowledge of that PDF, of all that proprietary data, and then allowing the AI agent to explain what they're doing, and then allow autonomous working around all the people, and then still making sure that all the data is secured and accessed only for the authorized party. So I think security and privacy will be really useful when enterprise is trying to adopt AI use cases. Because if you're simply allowing AI to have access to all your data without any security measure, no company will try to do that.
And what do you see some of the user case in terms of leveraging blockchain technology onto it that could protect the assets or to enhance the privacy?
Yes. I think the real way to protect like data is through encryption, and like kind of what Miko talked about this morning from like Gumi Capital. They're talking about like secrecy, right? So we need to make sure that this data is only accessed by authorized party. And then blockchain is a great way to have this trusted third party that allows like fair and atomic data sharing, and then also knowledge sharing. So essentially, we're using that as like a trusted public ledger to allow different people to work on like encrypted data set. Yeah. And then the core technology we're developing is semantic search over ciphertext. So we can host like a database that stores all your ciphertext. And then only you have the secret key, so essentially you still have control over like your data. And then without knowing the query, we can return to the user the most relevant data. So basically a rack, but making sure that the prompt and then all the data are encrypted. And we can still return to the user the most relevant data. Yeah, so that's the essential tech we're doing.
And apparently engaging with all these processes, we're looking into a dramatically increasing compute power. And Butian, you talked about shared computer, and during the backstage, the preparation, we were also talking about, for us, generating music, when you look into how, when I was the music director of Assassin's Creed, it took me around 9 months to write the music score for the IP. But with the Gen AI tool, now it's narrowing down the time to around 4 to 6 weeks. So we're looking at the productivity. That means we're also looking at increasing GPUs and compute power. And what do you think for Blockless in terms of decentralization or shared computer that could be a part of the game and can also create opportunities for whether it's a Web3 project or AI projects?
Mm-hmm. I think the world is not short of compute power, to be quite honest. And the bottleneck is really the distribution, like Michael just said, right? It's all about how these users, crypto kind of allow them to shift the ownership and beneficiary so that they could be part of this economy with whatever they contribute. Could be compute power, it could be data, right? It could also be models. Yeah. So I think traditionally the internet infrastructure isn't really built for our current, user-generated or user-centric autonomous age of AI. And that's what we are really kind of focused on, is to improve the experience of users. Not only being a user, but also being this whole economy, right? And I think that's like what crypto or Web3 is really enabling, the kind of real world use cases, the internet experience to really provide, the kind of distribution and adoption for the users of this new age of how internet, how the AI agents or swarms are supposed to work. And this is really what we are kind of part of, is to improve not only the kind of developer experience, but also the user experience of this open web and open internet.
So during this period of time, one thing that's critical for all of us is that we need to build user cases, right? Because one of the things is about adoption, and we've been talking very much about from Web 1 to Web 2, Web 2 to Web 3, and how we'll be able to leverage the technology into something that's new. One of the user cases that we started to build is that United Nations last week started to demonstrate Waves music AI in the headquarters of United Nations. And what we believe is that whether it's technology or it's art or it's creativity, it's about the beauty of civilization and humanity. But in the meantime, when we speak about, for instance, Michael, you're building something that's a marketplace for abstract. Would you like to leverage that a little, and also maybe talk a little about the user cases that you're building for abstract?
Yeah, sure. This is what I generally tell everyone. Just, it's like, when did Ethereum launch? Like July of 2015, and there's just been like this explosion of infrastructure. So whether it's an L1 or an L2 or an L3, like, my recommendation is just never build a blockchain. And the way that we came to making that terrible decision of building a blockchain was, if you're building for consumer, if you think about consumer, again, there's like 3 things you need to get right. It's curation, right? Like, I have 2 small kids. As they get on the internet, they're not going to an ecosystem landing page and clicking on a bunch of stuff, right? They're going to curated marketplaces, the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, Steam, right? Where they're, seeing, what's trending, editor's choice. And so like that's missing. Second part is discoverability. Like, as I'm playing Pokemon Go, it's serving me other like games, right? It's not serving me like Uniswap to go, do some swaps, or a lending protocol. Like, again, it's understanding like my on-chain, my digital habits, and it's serving me things that I would actually, enjoy. It's not gonna, I'm not playing like, Diablo 4 and it's like pushing me like workplace productivity app. And then the last thing, again, it always comes back to distribution. That's the common denominator for everything. Like, how do you then distribute what is successfully working to, a larger audience globally? And when you think about that to do consumer crypto, and again, like, I got into Ethereum because I was hoping for this explosion of, consumer-focused, on-chain applications, and it's been like almost 10 years, and really, that really hasn't been the case, right? And if you really think about it, it's like, well, why, right? Why aren't there's this explosion of like, when these mobile phones came out, because there's a camera on it and GPS, you have Instagram and you have Uber, right? Blockchain's gonna be no different. There's gonna be super unique things, and smart people like, folks here at Stanford and whatnot are gonna figure out these unicorn projects that are unique to blockchain, but it hasn't happened yet because no one has really built a marketplace that is on crypto rails. So this is why where we thought, well, what if you actually built a Sony PlayStation Store type wallet that then logs you in seamlessly to everything in an app store, and that also had streaming like Twitch or Kick that then brought tens of millions of users based on those creators. And that seems very credibly unneutral, and you can't really drop that on Solana or on Ethereum mainnet or Optimism. So for us, we're building the consumer-focused chain where this thing lives on top of it, And yes, it's permissionless to build on Abstract, but you do need the community to approve your app, your mint, your coin to be in this marketplace. And then they have standards. And that's the community to decide, like completeness of app, third-party audits, some type of human decency restrictions. You can't have a kill-to-earn app. What constitutes fun? Like what's the range? Is gambling okay? So I think this is where you're building this framework for folks to make decisions for themselves, and hopefully you kind of create this digital Disneyland of fun, and then hopefully you see where people take that.
And what about for Felix and Butian? Do you guys see shared computers where agents being in the direction going towards building marketplace, and does it need to be decentralized, or what are some of the takes from you guys?
Go first.
So I think it's going to be very interesting. We've seen agents being able to perform human tasks almost undistinguishable. What if, it's theoretically possible for agents to just create their wallets, create their own economy, and then make money from serving human users, right? And then it's a very interesting, I think, even on a philosophical layer of how agents could possibly take over human control of, on economic or social or the technical stack. And I think this is really requiring some of those, rule setting, taking responsibility, and, even government intervention in terms of what is detrimental to human. And we don't necessarily have all those in place. We've seen in the kind of decentralized world where community or the ecosystem, people taking, the kind of DAO governance, or for permissionless network. In our case, everything is kind of transparent in a sense that it's all open to public for any kind of due diligence. So I think this is going to be an ongoing trend where ultimately they're a decentralized approach to the future of AI agents and just AGI, AI in general. And kind of we are playing a part in making sure that things are, instead of running on some centralized servers in a kind of closed black box, now, we are really leveraging the computing, as a little bit technical term, is called off-chain computing, for users, developers to really build on top of each other while knowing what is the code, model, data that's underlying, without giving up the ownership of those type of assets.
I have a similar standpoint. So what I believe in is that AI agents should be able to learn and adapt. That's why we created this X-trace memory, so that whenever you're using and engaging with AI agent, the AI agent will grow memory and then build on top. It's kind of like how human employees work, right? When you're from junior developer and then continuously take tasks, you should become a senior developer. And this should be inside your AI agent's personalized memory, so that this becomes some kind of asset or knowledge of this AI agent, because as it interacts with more and more task, it should be more experience to it. And I think in the future, it should be something like AI agent can ask other people's experience, and then allow one AI agent to coordinate 1,000 or 10,000 of AI agents' past experience. So a junior software developer AI agent can instantly have access to all the past senior developers' bug testing experience. And I think this kind of knowledge sharing and then making it secure, which is why we make it encrypted, and then allow AI agent to search through all of this vast database, and then only to get the ones, they can pinpoint out the ones that's the most relevant to their query, and then still getting it out is what's really essential for this AI agent collaboration network. And this also kind of fits into the narrative of more agent is all we need. So we, instead of using a centralized approach that you have to spawn like 30 agents, which is already costly for computation, now we can just ask the past experience of the AI agent. So the AI agent that is assigning a task, they first check if they know this before, if they have performed this task before. And if they actually had performed it, they can actually just give you back the result from the past experience. Or they can say, oh, this is kind of relevant, and then we can use this experience and then improve on that. So that's kind of what I feel like will be like a good world of like AI agents constantly improving with each other. And then this knowledge network will be infinitely scalable as more AI agent joins and decide to share memory, and then while still having like data ownership through encryption. So even though you're uploading all the data to our network, we never have access to it because everything's encrypted, but we can still do all the operation on top. Yeah.
So out of curiosity, has anyone tried AI agents on Coinbase yet? Oh, okay, I guess no one tried it yet. So one thing that's really critical is that we're building user cases, right? And now AI agents, AI and Web3 products are sort of merging together, and we're all part of the game. Michael, did you see like AI agents could be a potential support or potential utility for you to enhance your product development and anything?
No, I think I think it's going to be huge in music. Both as you have emerging artists kind of coming up, and again, like, you know, coming up through hip hop from like 2 lifetimes ago, you know, you saw like almost like the decentralization of the production of music to when you have, you know, both like say like Max plus Pro Tools. Like all of a sudden, like at least when I was coming up, like I remember hanging out with John Mayer and he was making music in his mom's, you know, basement. Similar to like, you know, a lot of folks in like, you know, probably 2 cycles ago in hip hop, they were just, you know, not having to go to a studio, or there were these like independent studios popping up, and people are just self-teaching themselves like Pro Tools and just other just, you know, software that just drastically reduced the cost of production. And you're seeing this now with agents, where you have this whole new generation. Like I think there's this one song, BBL Drizzy, that just took off, and then I think like Drake was rapping against it, and then really just, again, distribution just, you know, went out to probably 100 million eyeballs. And then so now you have all these young kids that are just literally just teaching themselves various, you know, AI tools on YouTube, and they have distribution on TikTok and, you know, other social platforms. It gets picked up, and then all of a sudden it gets, you know, sampled, and it just takes off. Like, how do you actually, you know, if you put that on chain, there's like a really interesting way where, like I think BBL Drizzy, like you're able to put that on chain to get others to then sample it, and then you get credit for that. And then eventually it gets big enough to where you probably have to re-record it with like a live studio band to then qualify for the, you know, Grammys. And then again, you get a publishing deal with like, you know, Sony or someone. And again, this is like literally like what's happening to this artist right now. And he's just, you know, someone who was just a kid, you know, maybe like 6 months ago, just messing around, you know, and figuring this stuff out, to where now he has, you know, a manager, an agent, you know, on the verge of signing like a publishing deal. And so that's just on like the new artist side, the creator side. And it feels eerily similar to like when Mac and Pro Tools came out. And on the other side, you have like, you know, Jay Dilla, like, you know, rest in peace. But like you have these estates where, you know, how do you actually put that into an agent where you can, you know, get that Jay Dilla sound? That just unlocks a whole host of what that can do for Jay Dilla's estate, you know, fan base, you know, folks investing, you know, in something like this without it being a security. Maybe it is a security. There's like endless possibilities just there, just on like the professional like side, where it's like Tupac, Prince, like it's just like the list just goes on. So ultimately, I think it's like a net positive for music, just, you know, both for new creators as well as like established artists.
It's very interesting because when I was with the production for Final Fantasy, we had around 250 people all together, from pre-production, production, all the way to post-production. And for the orchestra, we've got around 100 people there, but in terms of the editing team, mixing team, mastering team, and composing team, arrangement team, and even for Pro Tools, and by the Pro Tools is one of the softwares to create music digitally, which is called DAW, Digital Audio Workstation. think of this as like an advanced version of a GarageBand that you can create music on. And we even have a Pro Tools operator just to do the Pro Tools because it's not very easy to use. But with these agents being built that could be allocated to different sectors in terms of preparation of the music production and to enter into recording studio. And you know that as soon as you enter a recording studio, things are all being, it's being recorded. So you gotta be really precise, and when you work with 100 people for the next 2 hours, there are delays, there are accidents. Some musicians would have fever, they couldn't come, and we have to call musicians in. But the thing is that if we see this as a utility or a part of the a tool that can actually help productivity, then there might be a great potential there. But interesting, when I was meeting the US Trade Representative, Catherine Tai, just a few days ago, she actually came to San Francisco Bay Area and actually had a meeting with a few high-profile technologists. And Catherine asked these technologists, so can you actually explain AI? And as a matter of fact, no one can actually give a precise, brief introduction as to how this technology can actually create more jobs. And of course, one of the topics that we're here talking about is generative arts. And at the backstage, we talk about how copyright infringement has become a serious concern and problem in the entertainment industry, and how you're going to train your data. Where are you acquiring your data set? And all these are going to be some of the critical things that we have to look into using the tech. But I do want to save some time for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Jorge. Thank you, all of you guys, for the intervention. We are raising a $12 million fund at the intersection of creative industries and Web3, including, of course, AI. And I was wondering, what is your position, and how do you see the next years of our ecosystem as far as infrastructure, tooling, and analytics for the creative industries and Web3, art, music, film, fashion, utilizing Web3 and AI? Thank you.
I can start. Again, I'm probably the dumbest person on this stage, but I actually fade infrastructure. That's why we called our blockchain abstract. We're abstracting the technology away. Like, nobody cares. Like, I'm on a Zoom call. I have no idea if that's running on AWS, GCP, or Azure, or I don't know, like on-prem. But where I do focus is like you try to figure out, like, infrastructure is vital, right? I'm not fading infrastructure, but ultimately it's the application of that at the end consumer user level. What does that look like? And I think with yourself, you're obviously trying to figure out what that is and invest in those things. It could be, these like music agents where you're discovering the next new kind of, viral, sensation artist, or, how do you take the Jay Dilla estate and then put that into an agent and then get it out to his fans, and, it's maybe hopefully turns the energy around meme coins into something like, people just want to invest in like some shared thing, but like invest in something that actually like is a cultural artifact. So probably not the best answer to your question, but I try to figure out like, what are people going to do with, on chain? And probably there's some ownership around cultural artifacts. I think meme coins are kind of an interesting thing that where eventually, I think one thing that maybe 3 years from now, how do you actually invest in the actual meme, right? Right now, what you see kind of popping off on Pump Fund, like 10,000, shit coins a day, like it's actually not that interesting. But I think the mechanic is interesting. It's like people want to own a piece of culture. You saw this with like, GameStop and stonks. Like, it's like this, I don't know, this like common thing that people rally around. But how do you do it to where if there is a meme, like a GIF, that goes viral, it hits 100 million views on Giphy, that somehow like that creator could then get, license that and get a cut of, that cultural artifact getting monetized. And then that underlying platform, whether it be Giphy or some kind of platform that, on-chain platform that, people here are trying to build, they also get like a 5% cut of that, as well as you're kind of giving the opportunity to the many, in that community to have a piece of it. So I think a lot of the energy you see around meme coins will eventually evolve around kind of owning cultural artifacts, whatever that may be.
Great. Any feedback, Butian or Felix?
Yeah, I think like what really is revolutionizing about like AI agents and large language model nowadays is its ability to process like unstructured data. So a statistic from Databricks says like 80% or 90% of like enterprise data is actually unstructured. And then previously, before it, like during like the big data analysis era or like classical machine learning era, people are just focusing on the 10% structured tabular data that has numbers. So I think now we are able to embed art and then video, audio into like vector format and allowing it to be processed by AI agent is like a really powerful thing to leverage. And then I think the next step is kind of like giving back like content ownership of data ownership back to the original creators. So what we're also building is that we can allow like AI agent to search through this encrypted database and then know what data they need to like context data they need in order to like generate the art. So they can take inspiration from different artists and then they can search through essentially all the encrypted embedded images and then they can say, oh, this image 135 is really relevant for my creation, and then I'll ask permission for it. And then only if the artist allowed to share the data, then they'll get the permission to use it. So I think this kind of monetization model will be a lot more healthier than just scraping all the image unauthorizedly. So I think that's also a way for people to AI agent to get through like paywalls or off walls that is locked behind like the scene. Yeah.
At first, I thought that was like asking about creator, how to invest in it, and then I was like, oh, we're the nerds in the room. Probably Michael is better positioned to answer that question. And then I give it a second thought, and then I'm like, creators, it doesn't really have to be just like artists. It could be like developers, any kind of creation of like project products or agents, right? So like if I were to just give some thoughts on it in terms of the investment strategy into the creator economy, I think there are things that you could quantify. For example, it has to do with like if an infrastructure or like the product development kind of metrics, like user base. Those are some of the kind of like common metrics to evaluate what the quality of the product is. And there are some kind of like less quantitative but more qualitative, like it has to do with creativity. Those I'd say I would bet on like a platform for either like distribution or like kind of easily scalable like framework that rather than betting on a single like product or like a creation. So those are my 2 cents. And also, by the way, like be careful with like legal compliance. We don't want like say a project just like take someone else's IP and then build something without getting the approval permissions with that. Yeah.
I'd say here one other thing I'll leave you, coming from like a TV background. Again, like if I were able to see the future, I'd probably be a trillionaire and just sitting on my own island right now. But I always look to like behaviors that are existing or in the past. So like for the TV side, like fan fiction is a really big deal, right? For around certain IP. And I think what AI would really be helpful, especially working with enterprise, is like in between like Game of Thrones, where we're all waiting from Sunday to Sunday, or I have 2 small kids and they're waiting for the next season of Bluey. Like how do you actually create something where fan fiction with AI tooling can just create user-generated content to just keep people's attention in those brands, as they go develop, the next episode, the next season, the next installment of the Marvel universe. And I think right now where everything is the attention economy, like that is actually like a really helpful thing for brands using AI, obviously given certain rules and restrictions. But that's something that feels obvious that someone is going to build, and I'll be a consumer of that.
I've heard like in Hollywood or Netflix, what they try to do is use AI algorithm to see what is more addictive or not, and then only build around that. And I think, yeah, like you said, that could be also another approach.
Yeah, no, totally.
Great. So I wanted to thank you again, Felix, Butian, and Michael for the panel. And I guess we're the last one here, so it's a wrap for today. So thank you so much. My name is Ivan, and we'll see you later today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.